you want to?
Plasma products found at keshefoundation.org/store. Soothing, reusable plasma eye and migraine mask. Eliminate eye fatigue and relieve stress in eye area. European certified medical device. Massaging plasma insoles. Bring comfort back to your feet and energize your legs. European CE certified medical device. Antiseptic plasma liquid hand soap. Promotes well-being and relaxation with protective plasma formula. CE certified. One Soul Plasma T-shirt. GAN's formula within the symbols and stripes brings mind, soul, and body into balance. European certified. Pain Relief Pen. Emits a concentrated plasma field at point of pain, efficient up to 3 centimeters below the skin. CE certified. The Magrav's Energizer and Alkalizer raises pH and energizes water through magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Pain Relief Pad, a result of years of research in nanoplasma technology with magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Visit the online store at keshefoundation.org/store. or find a distributor near you. Tax and shipping not included.
From the beginning of time, humans have always looked towards the sky for inspiration and guidance. There has been a fascination with birds, stars, gods, goddesses, and other entities which seem to exist above us, and for many humans, a strong yearning to travel into space. Man has dreamt of flight since observing space, and now it is time to become the space traveller. The future of space travel requires us to understand from where we came, to see where we are going.
Several thousand years ago, philosophers Mozi and Lu Ban from China were looking to the wind for flight. They invented kites using silk and bamboo, allowing for the later development of communication, measuring distances, testing the wind, and lifting men.
The invention of the kite brought with it the desire to fly. The first known attempts at flight were typically by leaping off towers, known as tower jumping. People in China, India, and Europe first attempted flight this way.
In 1670, Francesco Lana de Tarzi published a book that showed some interesting concepts. The concept of copper foil in a sphere with a vacuum would produce a vacuum airship. This is still not possible with today's materials. Francesco is recognized as the father of aeronautics, melding science and mathematics into aerial navigation.
The Chinese are believed to have developed the first hot air device. The Chinese lantern, using hot air from a candle, can take flight and was first used for signaling. The hot air balloon achieved the first human lift and advanced to what we know of as the Zeppelin.
The first attempts at flight in a heavier-than-air flying machine were made by more than just the Wright brothers. Most attempts failed. However, they were the stepping stones for what was to come later. The oldest airport, College Park, is still in operation today.
Airplanes evolved rapidly through the century, from propeller to helicopter to jet aircraft, and most of that technology is used today.
During the Second World War, Germany developed rockets that could go a limited distance. The basic rocket technology used then is still used today. The space race started with the Soviet Union and the USA in 1957 and led to many developments for the next step, the moon.
The spacecraft assigned as Apollo 11 was the first spacecraft to have landed on the moon. The space shuttle operated at tremendous cost. Burning the fuel proved to be wasteful and dangerous technology. The International Space Station, ISS, is a habitable artificial satellite that was assembled in low Earth orbit in 1998 with the use of the space shuttle. The ISS can often be seen with the naked eye from Earth.
SpaceX, as a private aerospace producer and space transportation services company, was founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs and enabling the colonization of Mars. SpaceX reuses the first stage of their primary rocket, Falcon 9, by vertical propulsive landings. Although, up to present time, it still uses the rocket fuel burning technology. Mayron Keshe has always said, the time for burning fuels is over, but did we need to start with that technology in the first place?
Ancient cultures have suggested the use of an alternative means of transportation. With reference to possible plasma technology,
you can go to New York from Brussels within 2 to 5 minutes. And most of this 5 minutes is actually landing and getting up.
Mayron Tavakkoli Keshe was born in Iran in 1958. As the son of an X-ray engineer, he was introduced to the world of radiation and nuclear science at a very young age. In 1981, he graduated from Queen Mary, the University of London, as a nuclear engineer specialized in reactor technology system control. At that time, he developed a number of theoretical ideas related to more simple nuclear concepts and their applications. In 2002, he decided to finish the full design of his ideas about nuclear technology. This included the creation and control of gravity and energy by the use of nuclear materials in a clean and safe hydrogen reactor. Mayron Keshe introduced the concept of double magnetic fields to explain the magnetic and gravitational field of Earth.
Unknown by the existing scientific community, he wrote a number of scientific papers in 2004 and sent them for peer review, such as the creation of black holes. When one of the persons performing the peer review used his information in public, he decided to draw back his papers and to concentrate further on building prototypes.
Since the beginning of 2006, several prototypes of dynamic reactors have been built, some specifically designed to create hovering effects, similar to effects seen with magnetic levitation. basic hovering effects have been achieved. 2007 brought the first flight test with radioactive material, in which the patents describe the process of the field interactions.
The main patent, Gravitational and Energy System, described the initial fundamental aspects of the plasma and uses. This was followed by the supplemental patent, Microplasma Reactors, where further uses and advancements were described. Mr. Keshe found himself in Iran in 2008 and was provided all the resources needed to create the first lift of a plasma reactor managed by the Iranian government. These special rotating gas reactors were used to control the plasma. To bring a deeper understanding, Mr. Keshe released the first book in 2009, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters, which contained many new concepts released to the public. This included the PMTIC plasma magnetic fields, initial fundamental plasma and plasma dilution technology used for space reactors. The plasma technology was further developed and it manifested in weight fluctuation in a controlled environment. 2010 introduced a new state of matter called GANS, an acronym for gas in nanosolid state. The GANS produces fields to be used in the operation of the spaceship. Advanced flight tests were performed in Iran with the guidance of Mr. Keshe and the newly designed systems.
Mr. Keshe tells us you can't bring all the doctors with you in space. Medical research advanced in 2010 and is still being explored daily all around the world. The Keshe Foundation has provided knowledge for dealing with many medical conditions in space.
A great example of plasma technology used for peaceful process is the capturing of the USA drone over Iran in December 2011. This drone was touted as one of the most advanced drones of its day and was caught by Iran using plasma to disrupt the communications. Plasma absorbs fields and the drone uses radio fields for piloting, a natural aspect of the plasma, a barrier of fields.
Book 2, The Structure of the Light, was released in 2011. This book brought forward the understanding of the structure of light as a cylindrical plasma where the light is in possession of all magnetic field strengths. Book 3, The Origin of the Universe, was published later in 2011. Mr. Keshe explained the further operation and interaction of different strengths of the same fields, which then leads to the creation of the universe. These 3 books bring forward a much deeper understanding of the plasma science that is applied worldwide by knowledge seekers and scientists in spaceship research and development.
There were 2 conferences to release the space technology to governments in 2012. The first international presentation in April, Keshe Foundation invited representatives of every country to the first presentation of the plasma technology. The second international presentation in September, Keshe Foundation invited the nations of the world through their ambassadors and their leaders to attend a gathering at the Keshe Foundation Center in Nenove, Belgium.
Space travel requires peace. The implementation of the plasma technology brings greater responsibility. In 2013, Mr. Keshe brought forward the World Peace Treaty. Signing of the Peace Treaty is a confirmation from yourself to your soul to act correctly in a peaceful manner.
In 2014, knowledge seekers came together from around the world to learn from Mr. Keshe, and many different experiments with reactors were performed, including improving the previously developed reactors to fit with the new knowledge, introduction of nano-coated reactors, multi-core GANS systems. The Spaceship Institute lab experiments were streamed live on the internet for all to see. SSI lab tests with reactors showed strong magnetic field pulses up to 129 Tesla and showed significant weight fluctuations. In December, an experiment was performed using reactors built by knowledge seekers from around the world. Italy, Germany, and Canada were involved in field communication tests. The tests showed that fields can interact with each other no matter the distance or time, resulting in instant communication.
In 2015, developments for space continued with different aspects of the plasma technology, such as in health, energy, and decontamination. In October of 2015, Mr. Keshe taught a popular week-long course called The Blueprint Teachings about how to build the MAGRAV power units. People from all over the world participated with building their own MAGRAV units and teaching others. With the demand of the Keshe Foundation products from all over the world, a new research center and manufacturing opened in Arizona, USA. Many developments of the technology happened in different parts of the world, and Keshe Foundation USA is no exception. John and the team started performing experiments using different sensing tools. These tools allowed the team to visualize the MAGRAV fields and to show others their interactions. With reactor formations showing positive results, partaking in the knowledge together is easier and more joyful than ever. The fun has just begun, says MT Keshe.
Mr. Keshe publicly teaches the space technology through the weekly Knowledge Seekers workshops. Plasma enthusiasts from around the world participate in gathering the knowledge and putting the puzzle together in the space race. All people, irrespective of race, nation or religion, are invited to participate in the exchange of knowledge, thus assisting humanity to live within the ethos of the universe. It is recognized that international cooperation and peace is a prerequisite for mankind to journey into deep space. Individuals and nations are invited to come together in the spirit of collaboration and unity to enable peaceful application and the use of plasma technology for space travel, food, agriculture, energy, transportation, health, and more. We are excited to release the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Blueprint to humanity.
Welcome everyone to the 230th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, June 28th, 2018. I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and this is a presentation of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. And once again, we'll be joined with Mr. Mayran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and he will present today's activities and information. That's the latest from the Keshe Foundation. Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Yes, good day to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to these teachings. It is interesting how the teachings are taking shape and how some people are trying to test a lot of teachings of the past few weeks in a way that nobody knows, and they want to do it to see if it can be done. And then they tell the others, don't tell them, I'm trying to see if I can do this or I can do that. It's very interesting that people still want to see and to be the first, and to see that they can develop the materials which we thought some done very rapidly after teachings, and some needs more understanding. One of these teachings has been the creation of light. One of them has been the structure of the light. But one thing which has to be understood, light has a strength. Light has intuition of its own existence, but conversion of itself into matter state or submatter state or above matter state, according to what is attracted to and what it likes to enlighten. Many of you who are testing for different aspects of the teachings in past 3-4 weeks, I think you're overlooking very, very much the teachings of the early weeks 4 years ago, 5 years ago. In those teachings, especially the early teachings, which we started in the Sensano, covers what is to become the flight system of today. A lot was taught. Listen to the first 10, 20 teachings, then you can come to a full circle to complete it. It is important to understand how you convert, how you transport, how you transmute, and then how you become the beginning to start all over again. Many of you have skipped one or two pieces of this, so you do not see the whole package of it. Different part of this has been tested by different part of Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers, and they cannot connect it to each other. It's time to consolidate. It's time to, many of you who did many of the tests, to start talking to each other. This is where, as one nation, collaboration has to start. Many of you have tested different aspects of the technology, but you do not see how to bring it together, and how bringing it together can make the whole package much easier to understand and to apply. The interesting part is, as I said, the Chinese Keshe Foundation Spaceship program is head on course. We are planning, we announced to the Chinese government with a full authorization, the tests will start very shortly. Monday, Tuesday of this week, or next week I should say, the test will start. The space development technology should be ready, if not by the following week. That you can hear Mr. Topoli. That we are on course and we will start testing. What will happen, it depends entirely on the head of the Keshe Foundation research team and the head of it, which is, we have kept his identity totally away from public because he's highly, totally involved in the whole thing. And more or less, it'll be done, it'll be announced and be shown by the Chinese, for the Chinese nation and Chinese government. I supervise, I advise, and from what I see, we will see the star formation in a very short time. Every effort has been made and it's totally 100% Chinese operation. And in this technology, we bring all understandings of the teachings. Everything which has been taught is accumulated, collected, brought in to include in this transmutation of elements, conformation of the existence, lift and motion, transportation and conversion of light into matter, and conversion of the matter into light and energy. It's one of the most sophisticated systems ever produced, and it has one pitfall, but we'll see if we can overcome. It's got slight defects in the system, but I think the totality might allow it to complete itself with motion. This technology has been offered to the government of China as a peace offering, which means it will be used for implication and enforcement of peace, using the Chinese government and Chinese understanding of the whole work, that this technology is linked to peace. And we are in trusted hands. I open this chapter today because, as I said, we are ready to test. We have entered more or less from next few days into the final phase of loading, testing, submarine tests, and above surface into the depth of the space. The system is so comprehensive that if and once it takes hold, there is no reason for not opening the space for mankind. It'll be replicated and it'll be developed by different nations on equal term basis. It'll be tested in the territory, water territories, and the space within the Chinese territory, and will be fully open to the Chinese government and officials. We have invited them to be present in every test. I see it, I hope we're 100% right, that we will see the first spaceship outside in the hand of people, not governments, and through the openness of the Keshe Foundation becomes the knowledge of humanity. I thank the Keshe Foundation Chinese team, those who have worked and supported in the background in different research centers in preparing different aspects of the system, And the specialist team has been working relentlessly for the past 2 or 3 weeks to get everything put together. The space flight, with the use of gravity and magnetic field in the hand of civilian, is the key to the world peace. And we shall see it very soon. As I said in the teachings before, we gave the technology to governments and they kept it a secret. Other governments have been testing it and failed because they never understood the totality of the concept. And now Keshe Foundation as one nation will deliver totality, the total technology, to all the citizens of this planet. This is what we said. As one nation, we deliver to all the citizens of this planet. So once we create and achieve lift and motion, the process of one nation starts. Then there will be no borders. They'll be in the hand of the public. We will release the blueprint with the permission of the Chinese government and full support of the government and nation, internationally full and complete. Which means every nation will become a man of space. And with this, we move into one direction. Every weapon technology becomes obsolete. Understand the reason. We can travel beyond the speed of light. Even we travel with the speed of light, within the speed of light. We create dynamic systems, dynamic magnetic fields, which can make and become useless every defense technology, every nuclear weapon, every latest flight systems which is produced, designed for killing, for murder, for mass murder, on the banner of the false name which is used by the Americans. Defense technology, create a war to kill more, to create peace. There is a very big problem, and I've given this warning to the Americans privately in the recent past days, and this goes back to this. The American nation and citizens should understand there will be a massive unemployment will hit the United States in the coming weeks once we show the technology. You got to understand nations who work on selling arms and creating arms to create war. With the development and release of this technology in the coming days, makes all their system obsolete. Nobody will buy a single gun. Nobody will buy a single missile. Nobody buy a single F-18 or F-16 or anything else you want to F it. This will complete the process. No one will spend money on battleships, which literally can be made what we call bathtubs, and we said years ago. Now it's come to flourish. So those of you who's close and listen, and those of the American authorities which are always online, we have given you the final warning. To start closing your weapon factories because nobody will buy them. And what we see, we have talked to a number of the government officials in the background, they will cancel all their forward orders for any weapon technology. Which means this process will hit arm producing nations very rapidly. The government of Belgium will collapse because 40 to 50% of the income is totally on weapon industry. I told you, we don't need to do much. The nation has strangled itself. This goes the same with number of other governments. What we call one process has to be done because otherwise it'll be too long. Still there'll be a lot of lies and selling arms. This way is a sharp, very powerful delivery of technology, and this will automatically, you will see, you will understand, change the oil industry. The dependence on oil will become zero within the next 3 to 5 years. That's closest to another chapter. All this will start and put pressure on a lot of governments, but it's something we all needed to go through it. And as I said before, thanks to all the knowledge seekers. You have brought the technology to where it is, and you have developed it. We have used your shoulder to stand high in delivering the latest technology. There are a number of what are called hidden technologies which has been across on the Keshe Foundation website, but you did not notice that it has been used in the new systems. As I said, it's not my problem. I have thought you've been not a very good listeners and not a very good students. So this brings you to a new chapter. What does all this mean? In fact, what it'll mean is simple. It means that we can produce food at any point on this planet. This means we can produce materials at any point on this planet. But don't forget, as we always said, this technology is for space. I offered the first passengers of this new spaceship to the wife of the head of the Keshe Foundation Research in China yesterday. And she took it with a smile. She's taken a lot. We thank her for bearing so much with all the harshness and the work, but it's taken time to be here. And in time, Mojans will be first passengers of this spaceship. As you know, we brought Mojans to China last year. And now they start the process of migration and work with the Keshe Foundation. They worked within the structure, they understand it, and hopefully by then they'll be elevated to the understanding of total work. The work of the Universal Council, the Earth Council, will kick in very rapidly. We promote peace through introduction of the new technology. We promote oneness. We promote equality through delivery of this technology. I'm proud of the Chinese team, and they're working relentless. And they will deliver the full technology complete as one pattern, one setup. Launchpad has been completed for it. Every other structure has been completed for it. So with the next few weeks, as we test, have it complete, and with the support and understanding of most of the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers, we will deliver a full space technology. There is a lot of understanding, there is a lot of technology, there is a lot of competing but interactive systems which many of you have looked, have not understood. When you build a spaceship, you have to understand the totality work of the universe, not taking one part and trying to work with it. You have to understand transportation. And transportation in the universe, there is no lorries and no trucks and no jumbo jet. Transportation in the universal language means sailing on the winds of the magnetic field flows and the rivers and oceans of the energy. In the development of the space reactors, even those which the governments are involved with, these things are not considered. It's as usual, single matter, one position, and understanding only of the matter state of the energy. When the systems are built for space travel, have to consider every aspect. It's very much like sailing on the oceans. You consider the direction of the wind. You consider the flow of the current. The same as you fly in the skies, you consider if you have the wind tail or do you have a head tailwind on you. If you have a tailwind, you go faster. If you have a headwind, you go slower. There is no difference in the space technology. If you get on the magnetical direction and you're traveling towards somewhere, you're on the headland. If you are on the gravitational side, but you're going to where you're going backwards, you still have a headwind. But if you get yourself on a gravitational side, but trying to go in the magnetical direction, you'll find out a lot of problems. There is no difference in the dimensions of the travel in space. One of the main things which a lot of you have overlooked in your process is fueling. A little bit here, a little bit there. You have gathered some knowledge, but you have to understand a much deeper understanding, total understanding of the space fuel. I have given you many hints, I've given you many directions, But you just jump from one thing to another just because it's become very much fashionable. You have become fashionable as space test laboratory, what I call space chicks. You try everything, but doesn't matter what it is, as long as you do something. Now you have to target your doings. Those of you who have a simple single reactor, you still can fly if you understood how to load. Those of you who have a star formation still can fly, but you have to understand how to load. If you are of those who understood the operation of your soul, you still can fly, but you have to understand, like a jet flies, how to retract your wings, how to bring a central force in that you can take off, which means how to retract every cell of your body in direction of the physicality to total energy, that at the point of manifestation you can transfer the energy back through transmutation to the element of the environment you land in. If you think of it, your body already do this. You eat energy, doesn't matter what you call it, apple, pear, fish, whatever meat, and then the body transfers into an energy. And then at a point of need, it transmutes it back to its own need. It could be a cell of the heart, it could be a cell of the toe, it could be a cell of the skin of your eyebrow. We know the technology, but we ignored it. So in a present space technology, be it using any systems which you like, you have to understand your body does it 24 hours a day, billions of times every day. Matter into energy, and then transmute it back into matter state of interaction as the cell of different part of your body. Make it hard, becomes the calcium of your bone, make it soft, becomes the tissue of lung or brain. So our body knows about transmutation of energy and conversion of it into matter state at the strength that it can feel like matter, as is the life sense, what you call itself living. So if you go back to all the teachings, medical teachings, the space development teachings, you should have already been able to understand a full process of transmutation of energy and matter, where the same energy is needed, becomes a calcium in your nail, and whenever the same energy is needed, it becomes a bone in your toe. And whenever it's needed, it becomes a cartilage in the joint or a cell in the heart. It's not predetermined that you eat the apple what it's going to be, but the energy of the apple with what it carries, once it comes to operation of the soul of the man and soul of the structure of the physicality, is decided according to the energy which is brought in, or elevated to, or divided by, to become what it is. If it's too strong, but you need the calcium, it goes your thyroid cancer cells, and thyroid gland, with use of massive amount of understanding of the work of the universe, converts it to number of cells for different part of the body. So those who said, and was the prelude to a full fulfillment of the maturity of the man, that transmutation of elements will be when the man matures, they now understand the transmutation of element, the knowledge of the man understands, is already part of the structure of the physicality of the man, is part of his existence. We don't drink water and the water goes through the stomach and then it comes out, whatever is not needed is released by kidney. The water as a matter transfers its energy according to what is needed to become the liquid within the structure of the body of the man in a gaseous state. And then when it goes through the process of the release, it gains the energy of the matter state, which becomes what you call urine. So you can see up to before that, it still travels and works in the matter of Gans, energy transfer. And the kidney, in reality, is a conversion system, is transmutation system, where it converts the energies which are at a given level to the matter state of that within the structure of the kidney of the man. So if any of you is looking for conversion of the energy into matter, what I call transmutation of the matter, or what we call transmutation of plasmatic fields, you should look into the structure of the kidney of the man. You should understand the operation of the sweating, how energies inside the body converts and then becomes sweat. So if it is so simple that so many cells of the man have understood it, it should not be that difficult for many more to understand it too. The process is very, very simple, and I keep on repeating it. Its simplicity has caused man the headache, not its complication. We have made it complicated, but it's so simple. And if you follow that simple path, you will achieve flight before even the Chinese do. But you have chosen, as I say, eating it, feeding yourself by twisting your arm around your neck, trying to feed your mouth. Maybe many of you who understand this can move to the next step. Are there any questions on this section? Or have you all understood that you can start putting your flight system together?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and I'll remind the attendees that you can put your hand up and I can promote you as a panelist, or someone else can promote you as a panelist, and you can speak then. Is there anybody in the panelists who would like to go ahead or have a question? Does that mean everyone understands, Mr. Keshe, or does that mean everyone's dumbfounded? I'm not sure which. Could go either way.
We don't know. It's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of maturity in the science of space. And many people do not like to consider themselves as people who are what I call in the front line of this technology, because they think there is something missing in their knowledge, but in fact they all have all the knowledge, and sometimes they're ahead of the others. If I start talking about the soul of the man, they all have millions of questions. But the what I call practical people have already decided that's we can't go further. We stop where we stop. Some are testing, some are doing a lot of developments, but at the end of it, if it's not done the right way, it will be wasted time. And it has to be understood to be done the right way.
Yes, indeed. There's a saying in racing, sometimes you have to slow down in order to go fast. So sometimes that seems to happen. There's slowdowns in the work and the experiments and so on, and it needs to have these sort of slowdowns in order for the next stage of understanding to kind of kick in and attain that energy. There is a question about the kidney, and if a kidney is removed, how should we address this? How can we improve it with some kind of GANs? Now, you mentioned the kidney earlier as an important idea in the way the universe works and in terms of the flight systems. And perhaps perhaps that idea can be incorporated there somehow. Are we talking about the same basic principles when you talk about the kidney?
What do you mean? Can you explain?
Well, you mentioned that the workings of the kidney, the way it interacts with our removal of waste and that kind of thing. And
you see, the sorry about that, Rick. To me, from where I sit, from the knowledge of human body and all the knowledge we have, kidney failure should not exist unless you are involved in an accident or massive dosage of poison. The dialysis machines should become historical items. The process of creating a stone kidney and then operation, it should have been closed by now. You got to understand something very important. I was talking about this very recently to a group. You got to understand what the Belgian government did. When the King of Belgium asked for the technology, we refused to give, and all the terrorism started. The reason they started all the slanders with the Red Circle and the rest of it was to create so much discredit that nobody touches it and then they can capture it. There is nothing wrong with the technology. The only thing which has gone wrong with the technology, it landed in Belgium. And in a way, the best thing happened to it is because it went to Belgium. You got to spread it out, but they never wanted it this way. A lot of people moved away from the technology because of the way they standard. This was the whole propaganda. This is what they've done. They killed the man who made the compression. They killed the man and they stole his technology, which was cubes. They continuously done this. 21 scientists have been killed by these people. A terrorist nation should be handled. But what you got to understand is they went out to create so much secondary thoughts to discredit that they succeed. But it didn't work with the major governments. All this new court summons and everything was to discredit and now says a fraud. We released you something very important. Mr. Delanois has released a paper calling me as a terrorist, and he withdrew it. And he goes around showing this to everyone, intimidating that I'm a terrorist. This will be brought in the Court of Justice. We have the copy of the summons. He has made a fake summons that I'm a terrorist, and he never came out in public. And the Americans told him if he doesn't withdraw it, they will do something with the government of Belgium. But he never showed this in public. This will be given to the court as evidence that because they came to kill, it didn't work. We escaped from Belgium. In 2013, February, in March, April, May, they produced a fake document that says terrorist, Mehran Tawakoli Keshe, trying to get me back to Belgium to destroy the technology and kill me. But the Americans, because they were at that time negotiating with us, with the Iranian peace, they said, get lost, this is not valid, he's not a terrorist. But they went to the Europeans. The Europeans were negotiating for peace as well. So they refused it. So Mr. Delanois kept this paper as a terrorist and showed it to everybody else outside. Now you understand why the police was in there. Intimidation of the police in the court. Now we release this information. You remember I released the paper from cosmology, what is social, the paper for assessing the Keshe Foundation, the black hole theory. We came up with it. Now you understand how Belgians have been lying and cheating and intimidating witnesses. A false document signed by Mr. Delanois as a policeman, as a chief of police, that I'm a terrorist, and now it will be given to the courts. That's why they have intimidated, lied, and cheated. We were waiting for certain moves in Ghana. We achieved that move in Ghana. Now we're going public with it. The state of Belgium has been terrorizing scientists. I take this into United Nations. We have now, we're going into the appeal court. We didn't do it below, no, it's the highest court. We'll release this document to you
plus the affidavit from the people who went to court. We delete their names from it, that nobody can have that, but it goes to the court to show how police has intimidated people. And Mr. Delano has carried this to every witness is brought in court, that if they don't give what he wants, they become part of a terrorist organization. So he has written all the witnesses himself. This is important. And if they were not discrediting the foundation and the work, now these machines, the dialysis machine and everything else, and the technology as a medical system is a major breakthrough in the world of science. Many of you are testing it, many of you are trying it. So what if you listen to all my teachings in past few weeks, since the scientists become a terrorist, now we can disclose, we release this. It's your job to spread this across the planet, to all the courts, to all the judges, to all the police forces, how state of Belgium terrorizes scientists. When they came to kill me, we escaped with 3 suitcases into Italy. Italian government gave us protection because at that time, already the peace negotiations 5+1 was in full swing with Iran and the Americans and the Europeans. How can you negotiate for peace with the longest lasting conflict between nations and be a terrorist? This time they didn't accept the fraudulent paper. Last time they accepted the fraudulent paper, they kept me 11 days in Canada. That fraudulent way why I was kept in Toronto was because of a false paper by the same officer. Now we release a lot of information. So you have to understand, they went and we saw the red circle, went out to discredit. As you've seen it, we waited to the first court case to become second. Now it's going to the highest court appeal. By the international law, no police officer can be in court or intimidate in court. But now the affidavits are complete, sworn on, and will be completely given to United Nations, to European Court of Justice, the European Court, every government in Europe has to have a copy. How Belgians are intimidating scientists, making them terrorists, and then fake documents. If a single affidavit has been taken by a single witness or submitted to a court by anyone, and it's got Mr. Delano has been present, or it's got a signature on it, is now valid. This is the international law. He was, and the police forces were in the court. Now we open the case. Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen. We have asked for the arrest of what is known as the kingdom thieves, the stealing technologies, and then sharing it. Red circles, what we call, now you know what is called red. It's the blood they carry killing scientists. They call themselves that. It's the nickname of their own in it. And it has a full structure. It starts from the king to Mr. Red Circle, to the police, Mr. Delanois, to the head of the European Space Agency groups in it, and everybody else. The dossier is complete. But now we are going on the technicality to the court that why the present police has been present in the court. When we release this document to you next 2 weeks, please release it worldwide. How even in the communist countries, police is not allowed in the court. But the strange thing is that the court officers ask the witnesses that have you been given your name to the police, since when? But we know one thing. Mr. Benjamin Mensah has been working with the Belgian government closely. We'll disclose what's happening to him. We kept this out till a move was completed. Now we announced to you, he put himself as a witness. He stole the car of the Keshe Foundation by the instruction of the Belgians. And now he went to them, say, look, the Belgians have this on him, where he worked for Belgium. We understood he infiltrates us. On the 11th of July, there's a court case for him stealing finances and what they call cars of the Keshe Foundation while he was entrusted with. We expect within 5 to 10 years, this is the police case, not Keshe Foundation case. But we were waiting for us to make sure that he was working with the Belgian authorities, and he does. He's used the Belgian documents to everywhere, trying to tell everybody we are terrorists, and this we needed. Now it shows the false allegations of the Belgians has affected Keshe Foundation worldwide, and we filed for huge damages. And please, when I release these documents, take it up and send it to every court, every government, European Court of Justice, how the police can be in the court. Then what it comes, it shows all the discrediting of the foundation is no discrediting. How come? They use it to their own benefit, but they do not allow it to come out. This was one of the biggest gangster organizations, and now we are free to defend ourselves. And the strange is, there are pictures, we asked for the pictures of the videos of the court, Mr. Red Circle, hand in hand, arm in arm with the police, which is against the law. Now you understand more. We have opened our defense, but this time, we as a Keshe Foundation defend it totally. We release you the copy of the terrorist scientist while he was negotiating for peace and achieved peace with Iran and United States 5+1. Now you know why suddenly when the Americans told Mr. Delano, you can stick it up your backside, sir, this false document, he went and now created this, what we see as a medical. All the things are dated and they show their sequence. So now you understand, this document is false. This court case was set up and they thought nobody will know. As I said, we played very close to the chest. Now we open part of the chest. All his communications with the governments, trying to get them, to push them, he went with the document to different places. They told him to get lost. If you get it to a court, we'll get it through that he's a terrorist, then you can. And immediately they came up with a new. You remember they took me to court in Belgium to get my, what I call the smoke detectors, and then they told me to leave, and then the King of Belgium came, says, give me the technology or leave my country or I kill you. And he tried both of them. We're still alive. He lost his kingdom. Now he has to be sentenced into European Court of Justice. For, you see, you have to understand something very interesting, is that in the past, nations used to go and invade nations. They went to Africa and they got Congo. And they emptied the resources, they still claim it. Us scientists at my level, we are like these. There is no more continents to capture. There is no more government, what you call, nations to capture. The last one was Libya and Syria. They're trying very hard. The next resources of the humanity comes out of the scientists like me. If they get hold of our technologies, the way they got hold of the compression, and then we saw the patterns and all the applications and work going with Mr. Red Circle, they make a lot of money. These are the next cycle of terrorism. Nations, governments, kings, pressurizing, killing scientists, because as the Chinese ambassador told me in Brussels, you scientists are like oil whales. If we can put you down, we can make a lot of money out of you. But you lot move around and you spread your knowledge across the world, does not make much for us. Look at the sanctions and the work with the Americans. Microsoft brings a lot of money into America. Microsoft is bigger island or nation as an income earner for America than anybody else. So now the Keshe Foundation knowledge in China becomes asset for Chinese. And this is not wanted. Scientists like me, on such a level, we are massive oil fields. As one said, you are 100 times worth more than Saudi Arabia. Now you understand why we get the discrediting, going out and writing all the rubbish, and now the second court case was. We didn't lose, we had to get to the highest court. Now it's gone there, now we release. Pictures of officers in the court, affidavit of 5 people being intimidated. Number of Keshe Foundation supporters being told they go to prison if they don't give the Keshe Foundation, what they call it, the evidence, the way Mr. Delano wants. Mr. Delano has tampered with all the evidence. And then he's called his big brother, who they stole together, Red Circle, to be in the court, and we saw there was no plan for him to be, he just appeared and the judge had to accept it. Very strange that 2 cases were brought together at the same time. So we understand collusion by the police and the court and the judge. Judge should have stopped the case, but he allowed the case to go through because he is part of the structure or he has been intimidated by the same place. If he gives a verdict, he becomes a terrorist. So this, we give a challenge to Mr. Delanoë, Chief of Police of Belgium, and the Police of Belgium to come up with a copy of this summons. It has to be said, it has crossed internet links, so it's in evidence on the internet, it's not forgery. And it all comes within Mr. Delanoë's email. He has sent it to Americans, to the Europeans. He's gone to the American embassy trying to force them. The king has used his connections to force the Americans to issue a warrant for international arrest of a terrorist, and they told them to literally, what we say in English, you know where to urinate, in your own back garden. So it goes back to kidney and the rest. The technology, if you understand it, it brings you in everything you need. Look at the structure of the kidney. The dialysis machines of today are a squeezing machine. They are not the way the body of the man works. The body of the man works in a very perfect way. That's why after a while dialysis people run into problem, because the system does not work. The system squeezes material out of the body. It does not convert it. So in so many ways, if you look at the kidney, if you look at even the bigger intestine of the human body, you will understand the secret of the conversion. Conversion of the energy into gas, conversion of energy into odor, what we call diamond structure, conversion of the energy back into a nuclear composition, conformation and gathering of all the energies together. One of the main things which the world of science does not understand about the bigger intestine in the body of the man is how the last part of the smaller intestine and the large intestine have created a condition of creating nuclear material. B12. When it loses energy, in the process of going through the body, it absorbs the energy back to become nuclear. Stay B12. And then what do? We fertilize the food and the plants with it, and we eat it back again. So in a way, if we look at our own human body structure, we are one of the most advanced nuclear systems. What they call, and they've been trying to call, fusion. In your body, fusion is complete. You eat food, you take the B12, you convert the energy to a level that becomes radioactive, you deposit it in certain glands, and when they lose the energy, your body releases it again as the energy, back as the matter in the intestine, and then it energizes it back. It fuses energy to it, that it goes back to become at the level that the body can use, and then, but at that point, it cannot feed itself back. Most probably, if we go through evolution of the system, our body will find a way to feed B12 back into itself, that it does not need to go out to gather it. So you leave it as an excrement, you plant it, you give it to the plants, and again, through the same energy conversion, you eat it back again. Through the animals, through food. So there's a lot for us to learn. And if you learn this and you understand this, you can do a lot of things that looks magical. As I said, by trying to discredit the technology, they have stopped many people to carry on with the work. But now we reverse it. You have to go back to the point to understand. You have to go to the point to understand how the process of whatever you've been taught is part of yourself. If you look at what I've taught you in the past 5 years, in my books, in all the teachings, I have not taught you anything which you do not know, which you are not made of. It's what I call knowledge seekers who have to start unraveling the truth the way it is, the way it will be, the way that it has. So when you speak about the kidney, Nobody should die of kidney failure. No one should die of liver failure. No one should die of massive obstruction of the liver with the liver cancers where calcification stops the flow. Doctors like Dr. Rodriguez and others should be able to do this in a flick of a finger. What is calcification? What does block the liver that expands so big and then you die of it? Liver failure. We have seen how you transmute energy into matter and then matter into energy. Doctors like Dr. Rodriguez and other doctors in Keshe Foundation, they understand how to remove calcium. Large, livers, which expand due to blockage, and there's just a backlog of liquid into it, and the liver expands. It should be very easy, done by those who understand how the system works. They can remove calcium from the liver, and all the blockages go. It's like a dam when it gets blocked, so it tries to find a bigger channel somewhere else, so the liver grows. This goes back again. You got the calcium, make it into plasma, let it transmute through the body of the man, take with itself the energy of it, arrives in the other side, in another dimension of the calcium, of the lower, you just take the calcium out. No one should die of these diseases anymore. A couple of days ago, I had the pleasure of looking at the video of my father sent to me. Last year this time, in June, they sent him home to die on an oxygen machine with 2 liters to 4 liters capacity that he could just barely live. A year later, no oxygen, and he travels. Just using the technology on his own accord. Tell Mr. Delano once of my father was saving his life. Using the uniform of the police is the most criminal offense to do, let alone destroying evidence. We call in for the mother of Nella, and we call in for the lover of mother of Nella, who was witnessed as a doctor in all operation. No medical operation was taken on Nella. And the evidence is that it was given food. In fact, the mother left the window open at -7 degrees temperature in the winter to kill her daughter. We give evidence. The lovers of the mother will be caught into court. The lie is written that it was given food, but the fact is she was admitted for pneumonia when the mother left the window open. This is how much lying has been put into court case. Now we call the lover in to give evidence. He was a medical person who signed in by the mother to be present. Now you understand how we are opening the case. Lie is big in courts of Belgium and all been fabricated. All the evidence has to be opened up. The thing is the same with the other gentleman who says he made in Paris, but the videos are on the net that without this we could not work. Now he has a full, and the court accepted the lies because the court was told to accept the lies. The flaw in the court case is so huge, but all of it is on medical, which has been successful. I tell you, when we say the life goes on balance, go on the internet and you see the mother lied that we caused the problem 8 years ago, and within months giving evidence, false evidence, she lost her girl. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Lying what she said, she received her service. This is how much justice goes in there shall be. And it's organized by the king, because now they're after knowledge and technologies to become the way they can control. And this is one of the most powerful technologies that they thought they would control through. And they become again, the smallest nation on this planet owns the biggest nation in Africa called Congo. And they thought the smallest nation will terrorize, kill a terrorist and his family, a scientist, and then they call it and they get it and they go. But please, Mr. Delanois, submit your summons as a terrorist which you submitted to American government and you told take it to your king and stick it where it sticks. We opened a massive defense for Keshe Foundation, and we were waiting to show that the allegations and damages has gone beyond the borders. It's not. Now their agent, Mr. Benjamin Mensa, has taken it exactly where they thought is their success, and now we open the book. Now you understand what we said, we put huge damages in, because your father died, your mother died, you suffer from any kind of illnesses which is a release for it, you can put cost and damages to the Belgian government. We show you how. Or, as I said, the federal nation of Belgium. All the technology will be transferred to the governments, will make it freely for their nations because they care, not trying to steal technologies. Now you know more, and we said we go public with it. Now you are fully aware why they managed to get so much lies and how they filled in affidavits in courts. And they got the verdict because Mr. Delanois carries a fake summons with him, which was never approved, that Mr. Mehran Tavakkoli Keshe is a terrorist. And Caroline de Rosa. And they have shown it to every witness. If you don't, you become a terrorist. Mr. Willie Delay was a witness which was never allowed in the court, was told that I'll be taken to prison after I get arrested as a terrorist. So he writes what he likes. And he's given his affidavit to the lawyer, but they wouldn't allow it to come into the court to be in a full hearing. Now you understand how the verdict was got. And we release it exactly the way we released the paper for Astronomical Society. And now they suddenly lost the paper. Now Mr. Delanois has to explain to European Court of Justice how he makes fake documents and takes it around. It's a full summons and he's signed by him personally, and Mr. Red Circle has been operating to help them to put it together to originally when I left Belgium. Now you understand the full process. The damage has not been a damage, has been a success, especially since we left Belgium, they were controlling everything, is become the teaching started. 230 of them publicly every week is the benefit to mankind, to humanity. The lift and the space program of the Chinese government, the development of the new factories and research centers. Millions of people now know about the technology, they can help themselves. We see videos sent to us every day, we see videos, hundreds of testimonials, how a man has helped his father with a stroke, could not do. Now he walks, he's gaining back his life. We see now the television of Malta releasing Naomi documents. Exactly the same copy of the false allegations which were used in the court. I think a life sentence is too short for them. And please, when we release it to you in most probably by next Thursday, make sure as we send it to you as our case with the court, you release it to all the governments and the embassies, how Belgian government has made the scientists terrorists, and when they could not do, they have ordered and organized other things. And now how they have faked, the same officer has produced the false summonses. We're calling on American ambassadors to attend the court, the same as other European governments that they have taken this summons to. Now you know how they manage to get witnesses. Threatening that they become terrorists if they don't. Let Mr. Delanois write what he's written and they sign for it, otherwise they become terrorists. They didn't do this even with Hitler. I think Mussolini was better than Mr. Delanois, or the King of the Belgium, who ordered it to be done this way. We released the King's picture that all this problem after 2012 started when he asked for the technology, otherwise they kill me, and I was told him, where to hang his coat in that Hague prison. Sorry about this, you came through all this problem with us. Now you supported us. Now we help you to allow the technology to be released. Fake summonses by governments, and then they call governments like Iran as a terrorist organization when they're actually terrorizing themselves. The state of Belgium has to be brought into court for how many scientists they've killed. And we have a list of them. And amazing enough, 4 or 5 of them, the same name appears. Dirk. And we have found direct link between Dirk and Albania. We are very, when we say something, we release it. And you will be very surprised how the process has gone. We release the information, and we will see in time for it that how they do state terrorism of scientists. They call it state terrorism of Americans. Why the Americans don't do this with the Belgian government? How come you kill and terrorize? Unless the Americans are sharing the loot of the science. Then that goes back to President Trump of the United States to declare the hand of the Americans. Are they involved in terrorism of the scientists? They did. They captured me 11 days in Canada. And the woman who signed my capture with the false summons of the Belgians, we know what happened to her. Not much later, she got the brain damage. I thank all the Keshe Foundation supporters. Now we are free, we can speak. And if anything happens to us, please ask all the documents, all the emails of the Belgian police to be opened up, and emails of Mr. Delanois producing and sending warrants and summonses for a terrorist, for a scientist we could not kill in February. Now when we said, everybody said it was a lie, how come immediately they allow in April, 2 years after our escape, 2 months after our escape, to produce a fake document as a terrorist? Continuous pressure. The Italian government told them you can get lost. He's one of the biggest scientists we protect him. Now you understand, a lot is going to open up. It's the end of the kingship. The kings who are terrorists are not kings, they're terrorists. Any other question? Yes, you can ask a question, Mr. Topali.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Let's see, there was a question from Wolfgang in the live stream. He wants to know the best way to get the energy flow through the soul to the body. He says, I try to feel and imagine the flow from the unified plasma field to the soul, then to the heart and the body. And
you have to understand. Let's go through this. A lot of people have been trying to do this. A lot of you have been trying to understand the flow of energy, trying to replicate this, trying to see how you can do such a thing. Get energy flowing in your body. Go back to teaching. You've been taught this. I had one of the Chinese knowledge seekers talking about it in the past few days. Energy flow, how does it flow? How does blood flows in your body? And why certain bloods flow in given directions? And why certain blood cells or lymph cells go towards one side only? Because they are going to be the part of what you call the structure where they are traveling. But it doesn't waste time and energy sending a cell which is for the brain to the tip of the toe and bring it back up again. It does not work that way. It works on efficiency. Then go back to the teachings. What did we say? Transmutation of the fields in gravitational magnetic field strength is by gradient flow, higher to the lower. What we call love. I love you, I feed you. That's what your soul does with the tip of your toe or the hair in your head. Is this the position from the brain being further from the toe, or what we call from the soul of the man to the soul of physicality of the toe, that dictates what energy will go to it and how the flow of the liquid go? Or does it to do with the gradient in the strength of the field? If you are in touch with different part of your body, you should be able to do that. If you are in touch with your cells, should be able to do that. So, if you want to do gradient transfer, go back to understand how the strength of your soul is, how the strength of your, wherever you want the energy to go through, and try to create a position that is weaker, that it allows the soul to feed it, but create it on the strength of the soul. I taught you this in a space technology. In a space technology, I want to share a screen that you understand. In the space technology, we have a very interesting position. And that is, when we want to travel in space, we create an imaginary point through the strength that we can use it as a position to move into. You can choose a star, you can choose a planet. But in the middle of the space, you have only 5%, if that, not even a 5%, is less than 1% of the universe in a matter state at our strength. So you cannot lock into somewhere very far. You create that imaginary point through interaction of your reactors. And then that point you try to convert energy with, transfer in so many ways, gravitational magnetic field with. If you look at it in a very straightforward way, that's what you're trying to do with your own position you created. So you create so much gravitational field forces here that it interacts with the smaller mass, electron and a proton. And then if you remember, go back to understanding of totality of the work of the electron, neutron, proton. There's a bandwidth that this electron can move in. So if you master it well enough, you can never come into it. But you can this move further out. So you create a field and then you pinpoint the field and you do it. So now change this spaceship, this proton, this electron to your soul and this to your body. Where do you want it to go? What do you want to change? What would it bring the change? And is that change which you wish is beneficial to the other souls and the other souls of the body of the man? Because if you change the soul or want to be in that soul, you change its characteristics, you can start a cancer, and these other cells and other elements are not happy with. So you will not achieve it. You cannot do something out of self-interest. You have to do on that I understand I don't even harm my own cells, my souls together. I hope you understand. So you decide on the transfer of the energy if you understand the work of the soul, this work of the transmutation of elements, this work of the transportation of light. Because when you transfer an energy which is from your soul to be or trying to move with it, it means you create a light. You see the light within yourself. It's a lot to understand. Any other question? When you ask questions like this, try to go deeper in understanding of the knowledge. Try to look at the full knowledge in totality. You have everything. I have taught you everything you need to know to travel the depths of the universe.
Before you began your explanation, Vernie had put into the chat in the live stream to respond to Wolfgang that visualization of the flow is a good start. Allowing the flow connection is key. That is giving permission to the energy you wish to convey, allow and accept. Then he mentioned, interestingly, I think, then give also to where you connect. And that's basically what you were talking about, to make that connection to where you connect. Now, in that sense, does that must apply to, if we look at ourselves from our viewpoint of where we sit in our physicality right now, to the things that we have attracted to us in our environment, the actual literal things that we see and interact with. Is that essentially what's going on with this interaction with, if we set our sights a little further out, like in space, for example, or even to another city somewhere, or some other location beyond our immediate environment, then we would find ourselves changing. If we really apply ourselves and really visualize it, eventually we will find ourselves in that other city or outside, or however, according to our emotion, where our emotion takes us at that time, it seems. So it seems like where we focus is important to get us to the next place from where we are. So, but you mentioned focusing on something quite far away, and I'm having a hard time seeing how the interchange, for example, with a spaceship and a star system, many so-called light years away, how would that engage and interconnect? We'd have to be talking about very, very strong forces from this end in order to have that central core that would be able to connect with that star system. And wouldn't the signal from the star system be so weak in its fields? Like how is that connection made?
The thing is, the The strongest fields in any star, that strength in gravitational magnetic field exists in every cell of the body of the man. If you look at an iron, for example, on the condition of this planet, gravitational magnetic field, the strength of it is magnetic. There is a test. Would iron will be still magnetic in the next solar system? I doubt it. Because the gravitational magnetic field is totally different. The structure of the fields are totally different. Iron is not the only magnetic material in the universe. It's the biggest rubbish ever existed. The drops of the water, the molecules of the water in the water would not exist if they were not magnetically gravitationally to each other. So be the wood, so be it zinc. When you have the world of science has become so hypocritical that it's unbelievable when you listen to some things and then you say, how come people accept this so much rubbish? You say the only magnet in this universe, in the world is iron, and I'm material of iron. And then, if you remember, they were telling us there's an iron core, and because of that we have the magnetism. Now with the knowledge of the plasma, can somebody tell us how all these vast amount of drops of water in the universe, in this planet, have become to be magnetized and only stick to each other? So, does the magnet only exist in the Fe or iron life of the strength? Or for the drops of water to be together, they have to be magnetized, they have to have the attraction to each other. So, with the new technology, we can create that field. There is this is what we have to understand, and even for a leaf of a tree to be attracted and stay with it, with a tree, or every cell of your body to be together, there has to be a gravitational magnetic field, magnetism to keep it together. So how come we say only magnetism exists in the metal, in the iron? Because we accepted a lot of fairy tales. Now we understand the totality of it, we can produce magnetic field of it. The structure has to be as such that it fits into every dimension of the work of the universe, not only what you want. So, do we get attracted to, or can we create a position to travel into? Of course we can. Now we have the knowledge. It's very simple. If for those of you who have a problem to see how you can make a point of reference that you can fly into, when we release the Chinese space reactors, have a look at it. It's in there. I've designed it that way. As I told you, the Chinese space system is so complicated, it's so easy, but it carries that creation of the spot where the spaceship can go into, be traveling towards. It's designed that way. So you can design your thoughts. I want to be in the next room. I don't want to walk from here to my bed. I want to be in bed. But it needs practice, it needs understanding in how we move, how we develop, we concentrate the energy. In the space travel of tomorrow, you cannot create sudden positions. You have to create combination of positions, that the totality of the combination creates what you want. It's very much, there is a side way on the road. You decide this is where I'm going to park till my friend from another city comes and we meet here. They haven't made you a parking space. They haven't made you a service station. It's not a planet. It's not a star for you to land on it. So it's the same in the space travel. You decide, I want to be in that space. My brother's coming from planet Zeus. We meet there because I'm going somewhere else. Planet Zeus takes a long time to go to. So I create that position and I give that a strength gravitational magnetism position to my brother. He knows wherever in the universe he'll land there. So do you want to get on the sailing of the magnetical, or do you want to get on the sailing of the gravitation of the inwards? Or do you want to go halfway and a certain position to switch over, because the magnetical gets weaker and weaker at the point of conjunction of the two balances, you jump onto the gravitational side, which gets stronger. There's a lot to learn. But now we have to show you the systems that then you have to start expanding into it. Third world nations, Chinese structure, they will go so fast. One of the biggest obstructions you will see into this technology is from the advanced nations, because what you call African nations get into a fast track latest space technology, where the Americans and the Europeans have spent so much on wasting time and making things go to a space that they have to recuperate the funds, or they write it off, they become the third world nation, then we all start together. This is what I plan to do, to bring equality in knowledge. With this equality in knowledge, it's very much when you go to, if you travel to China, you see China, suddenly you don't see 40, 50 years old cars we see in Italy. In Italy, sometimes you see a car go, wow, it's still running. Here, everything is modern. The technology is modern. In China, everything is in a rapid move because they didn't go through that structure of 40, 50 years building everything, and then by the time they built it, it's too late. They started at a point that's already built, so everything below it is gone. They don't need, they haven't invested money on. But governments like Americans and Europeans have 40, 50 years loan given for the new developments of all these weaponry you watch, which the Americans, Europeans are putting in the market. It's all loan money from the banks. And now you make it obsolete, makes them bankrupt. But a nation like China just picks it up and it goes because it doesn't have that commitment. I said we are fully committed to Chinese government for development of technology and peace because of this. China is in a very unique ground. You don't see old cars on the street. You see all new development because they didn't have, but when they started it, they started from a new platform. American systems, why you are so behind in your telecommunication in most of the parts than China and the others, because the money which was invested to build these are not paid for the loans. So they still have to use the obsolete, they don't allow you to go to the next step. If you walk around China, nobody uses cash in the pocket as such anymore. Everything is paid by WeChat. In Western Europe, in European countries, you dream about such a point. You go to a car park, you pay, you buy a bag of chips, you pay with a card. Nobody carries money in there. It's funny when you go some places and you have money, they don't carry money. I've sat in the cars, watched them. You can't pay. They have a problem in Kentucky Chickens to give you change back because they don't have any money unless tourists pay them. And this is the structure of the development which will come. It will be very rapid. I wonder what happens to billions of the loans Saudis have got to buy arms from the Americans. They force them to pay for the arms they don't want anymore? Or would it make the Saudis bankrupt? Because they're paying for something which they have no use to for the next 30 years, the loans they have signed. The change is very rapid. This technology, the beauty of it is, if you understand it, will make the nations who rob the world bankrupt because of their own thieving, and brings them down. And those nations who were just trying to struggle to get to balance, they become equal. Can you imagine? Peace with Iran created 10 to 15 million jobs in the United States. That's why the president cannot push his boycott. He talked a lot about it, obviously silent. He can never get it through Senate, because no senator will allow a single job to be lost, because he won't be a senator next time. He won't vote for the president. So we seen it died off. It was a big parking. Now, most of these states who are fully dependent on defense, they go bankrupt. LA, other places, because nobody wants to buy arms. And I'll tell you how it feels. I've been through it. And I'll tell you first-hand experience how it's going to feel. When Russia opened up, when the Eastern Bloc opened up in 1990s, late 1990s, we were aware of it months before it happens, weeks before it happened. We were told we are in that move. So as a very, what I call, businessman who was in Europe, I went through, with many businessmen, through this process of opening of the East. Our Eastern listeners can tell you. I went to many arm factories, which they could not sell arms anymore, because at the Russian time they used to sell it and get credit for it or whatever. They couldn't sell it. Helicopters. I went to one of the biggest helicopter graves in the world. I've never seen so many helicopters, so heavy, the wings. They could not even sell it. Nobody was interested. Why? Eastern Bloc went through this pain of all the military hardware was not needed. That time, some people invested back in and they built some things up. But who's going to help the Americans and the Europeans now that nobody wants their armaments? And they don't dare to start a war, because you cannot start a war that nobody wants to fight. I want to fight to sell my arms. Doesn't work. So we're coming to a very conclusion this week, next 2 or 3 weeks, as we go into the space development completion. I try to open a lot of things that it can be understood. So we have forced a condition of peace with the delivery of the new technology. And with it, we have to understand a lot of it. Transmutation is part that you knowledge seekers have to rush to understand as fast as possible. Test it, try it, understand it. In your body, you do it. Find out how. Test it. Understand how you can even feel the emotion in a cell of your body. How you can change cancer cells in your body. You all are able to. If a machine in the back and the front does for you, so should be your emotion the same way. We have to understand a lot of new processes, a lot of new understanding. Falling in love, which means giving. Fell in love, fall in love. Try to fall in love. What it means to give to a cell and see what that cell responds to you. With a woman and see what that woman responds to you. To a man, to a dog. You don't need to tell, I love you. You can give that to the soul. The soul will feel it without a word of physicality. You don't need a word. That's what I say. I never say I love you. Because I say it to why, what reason. Then you don't need, you can give, you can transmit it through the, what I call, the soul of the transmutation of the energy. Creating a life without physicality is very easy, but appreciating the life, which is important. How do we create life in space. How are they going to be our next generations? Do I transmit an energy and I leave it there and somebody else comes and puts the other energy into it, and through dimensions of the universe, energy pack leads to creation of new soul? It happens every second of the time in the universe. Always said to Caroline when I met her, we come to this planet to enjoy the physicality because the rest of the world, the universe works on the soul level and the energy. There's going to be a very massive push for all knowledge seekers to start understanding very rapidly a lot of things, because the time has come for us to push forward. So, how do you feel your feet and how do you transfer your energy? Is you have to create that gradient in this, in the need of the cell, or understanding of the work of the soul of the man. And I have taught you everything to do. You want to be in another room, you want to be in another point in the universe, you want to understand how the lights from the stars reaches you and what the rubbish has come out. It takes 100,000 light years for the light of a star to get to you. What a nonsense. And how come we all see the same little light? A little bit of understanding of the plasma technology. A lot of you should have written papers that the Royal Astronomical Science will put it on the shelf for somebody else to come and copy it and tell them, oh, we have found a new thing. But we've seen the biggest light in the world of cosmology is gone now, the biggest cheat. Now it allows people with true science to come. The thief of Baghdad has gone. You are free to think and develop technologies. We are here to guide. Waiting, any other question?
There is a question in the chat, Mr. Kesh. Is the
Yes.
mother neutron the soul of matters in a similar relation to the creator as the electron to the proton and the body to the soul? When we create ganses, do the energies go the full circle through the creator? Are the GANs kits magnets for light?
In so many ways, yes. In so many ways, one of the biggest nuclear decays in the universe, even bigger than plutonium and uranium, is the neutron. When a neutron divides, it decays. This is the part of, again, as I said, in the world of science, we always look at one end and we forget the other end because we never understood it, so at the moment we play blind. We call it a nuclear decay in the book. Book number 1, number 2 is, if nuclear decay is so effective and so simple that it happens every million of seconds, do we need to understand anymore? The biggest illegal nuclear material in the world is in the body of the man or any creatures, and it's called neutron. Because it decays rapidly, and it always decays. We are all a bunch of nuclear weapons walking around because we, all of us, carry neutrons in our body, and every neutron decays. And the minute it decays, divides an electron and a proton, the electron becomes another neutron. Now it's going for a time for itself to decay, to split. The world of physics and science is so simple, but we made it so complicated. So if that center divides itself and it still carries the remnants of the first one, so if within the electron we have the remnants, the same part, the strength of the neutron, we have the same thing in the proton, and now can you understand where that neutron came, a part of collection of the energies from another division? And then it came from another division, all these billions of neutrons which have been divided, and the division is reached to be the level of the energy of the observation of the man. Now you can imagine what is that big neutron, which is division and still exists, has led to creation of all these neutrons, which has led to all the single neutrons in the creation of this universe. So that neutron, what we call the creator, is within us, is become part of us. Are we connected? We are made of. We are not connected. We are part of. We are it within ourselves, within the center of the structure. It does not matter how it comes together. Without its division, without its what I call subdivisions, will not lead to creation of what we are. That's what I say, you have to understand and be impartial, not just go to a limit from then on. It says in Torah or Bible or another book that these things was not, because you could not understand the totality. Now you understand, you have to go a step further. And then you say, is God within us? Are we connected to? You are made of it. You are part of it. It's you who have denied your own existence. Any other question? Don't ever doubt in the confirmation of your existence and connection with the Creator.
Mr. Keshe, by using the four gases which we have learned, CH3, CO2, CuO2 and ZNO and water, can we arrange them in such a balance of mass to create gradients, to create the fields of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium? If I may share my screen. If I may share my screen.
Yeah.
So we have, oh sorry, let's put a more contrast color. Let's say we have CH3 and we have CO2. If we put them in proper mass ratio, the carbon and the carbon would just interlock. And let's go further. We have further copper oxide. Between the CO2 and the copper oxide, the oxygen can interlock. Then we have zinc oxide. Here between zinc and copper, we may have an interaction, zinc feeding copper, and being stronger than one, it may result a balance equivalent to the field of hydrogen. And furthermore, if we add the proper ratio, mass ratio of H2O, this oxygen and the oxygen from the H2O may again come in balance. So what we have left would be a field of H3, a field of H, and a field of H2.
When and how are you going to add these things?
So I thought in order to be able to measure exactly the quantities, the mass ratios, we have to remove the salts and remove the water from the gases. So we need to have a desalted and dehydrated gas measured in proper molar mass ratios. And we can use it, for instance, in dynamic reactors or in static reactors. So I'm looking for the principle now, not exactly for the technical execution. Or like you presented in Knowledge Seekers workshop number 115, if I recall well, you have been talking about what's going on in China in that time in 2016. It was a drawing with two plates with gases arranged in a certain order on one plate and on the other plate. And by using this principle that the stronger feeds the weaker and making a specific gradient and mass ratio can achieve various kind of fields which finally can produce a rotating plasma. So that's another way, just to use the fields of the gas. Another is to use such a dynamic core reactors, if somebody likes that. I'm just thinking to use a static reactors where to create the field flows only. We have learned about the structure of the gas. It's not like in a molecule. For instance, in case of CO2, in a molecule structure, we have two oxygens coupled to a carbon atom. But in case of gas, if I recall well, the early teachings, you told that it's the field of the stronger in the center. So it's a field equivalent to two oxygens. And around that, there is the field of the carbon when we have a particle in gas state. And it's interesting if we put this together. In case of the CH3, it's the carbon in the middle, and it's the H3, field of H3 around. So we have a connection from this carbon to that carbon, and if we put an equal mass ratio or near equal, in that case they can just get into the balance, and we release the field of this oxygen, and of this H3. So what we will have left can be a field equivalent to H3O. Going further, if we have, for instance, copper oxide gas, all in gas, of course, and zinc oxide gas. So here in both cases we have in the center the heavier fields of the metals, and around we have the fields of the oxygen. So again, if we bring them in a proper mass ratio, we can create here a field flow, but zinc feeding the copper, zinc feeds copper, but there will be a balance of the zinc fields equivalent to one hydrogen. Furthermore, this oxygen with the double oxygen from the copper can again make a partial balance and get free the field of an oxygen. So on the gravitational part, we have a balance of H, on the magnetical exterior part, balance of O. So we have an OH or HO alkaline radical. And here we had a acidic H3O2, sorry, not H3O, but H3O2. So now if we create these conditions in static reactors that on one side we create a field flow of balance, and we create a free field, a free part of the field with the strength of H3O. On the other side we get of OH, and we put these into an interaction. We create a condition so they can feed each other. Then the balance will be very interesting, that the balance will be H2O. So it's exactly what's needed for an oasis system to create the fields of water. Am I right in this thinking, Mr. Keshe? What's your view on that?
You can never be wrong, but it's a very long shot. Today I was in the lab, and as I said, one of the top guys in Keshe Foundation Plasma Technology was showing me, says, I've seen this, I've taught this for years. How many times I've asked you, when you are making gases or whatever, Mach level, the water goes up. And nobody did. But strange enough, he says, there is a problem. I emptied the boxes and next day they're full of water. So I said, this is what we thought for years, level, measure. And I said, okay, we empty the box and we look at it tomorrow. But he's being emptying the boxes and creating water. The production of water, the alkalineness, the acidic of the water. The same thing comes from one of the Keshe Foundation research centers. They've been trying alkalineness, changed everywhere to such a level. I think it's 8.2 or 7.9 or whatever. I can't remember the exact. 20 meters away, outside the lab, inside the lab, everything has got common denominator level of alkalineness or acidic. What you show is the process of the creation over millions of years. If you can position systems built like this, that you can make it to start the trigger points of the first dynamic system operating without the motors, then you start a cycle of life. You can even explain how water was created on this planet, how it came to exist. Was it the oxygen triggered it, or was it the hydrogen? But in so many ways, you're not far wrong. You can write any equation you like, but can you create a condition for it that it leads to dynamic evaporation of the water?
So right now I'm in the process of purifying the gases and drying them in some small quantity. And when having them dried, then I start loading some small reactors with it and start testing in practice. I'll come back with any results will be. Just now I am realizing what differences it makes when we make the CH3 gas. So we have a zinc-coated iron, and we have the nano-coated copper on the other side, interconnected by some load, some resistance. And we have the salt water. In the beginning, it uses to produce some white thing which looks to be like a CO2 gas or CO2 zinc oxide gas. And then later it starts to produce that orange color CH3 gas. Oh, sorry.
Did you use galvanized steel?
That chicken mesh, for instance, or table, not
So
a plate.
see, the reason you get that white piece at the beginning, most of the galvanized systems have zinc or nickel. So till that layer disappears, become part of the GANs, you only have the condition of CO2.
Yes,
so you get the white stuff.
Now what I
When
realized...
the white stuff finishes, when the white stuff finishes, now you have mixture of zinc and iron. And in that process, you start creating CH3, which comes from the balance of the iron, the copper, and the zinc. You have to understand the process. Fe is 56. Cu is 60. Then you have zinc, which will go up to 65. They say 62. Yeah? So now you can see how CH3 comes into play, how the carbon comes into play.
So let's say iron 56.
No. Stop. You got the iron on the other side 56 on your drawing at the bottom. Where you put 59, the other side of it is 56. If you put 56 and 62, you have a condition for creation of carbon. But carbon doesn't come into play on its own this time, because it's a different carbon magnetic field which is created between the zinc, some isotopes of zinc and isotopes of copper. Here, in this center, I'm going to write something because it's not fully brought up. If you look at it in this center, you have two isotopes of copper playing game, not one. But one isotope fits into the carbon, which is this, and one isotope of strength goes, which is to this. When you speak about carbon and production of different gases in the same layer, it's not the same carbon. It has a slightly different gravity, the carbon of the CH and the carbon of CO2. It has a slightly different magnetic field. It falls within the bandwidth of the energy of a carbon, but that bandwidth is huge in plasmatic condition, crosses universes. The same thing is now when you explain this partially and then it goes red, because now a new carbon strength has been created, which allows totally different ball game. It's different in strength. Above us, above this pot, you have many carbons, but none of them are of the same. Some of them are the energy of this, and some of them are energy of this. With the zinc and copper, you created this. But you have to remember, iron sits in the background, so it has a say in the field structure of the carbon which is created here. And that carbon with a hydrogen, a free structure of the plasma, gives it the orange glow. And if you stick it a little bit higher, as you know, and you go into this zone, because by the time you already have created this zone, yeah, voila, you have blood. Because you brought in the amino acid in it. Sorry. What you put here, if you go back on the history of mankind, brings the whole humanity on the table. This is life. if you can control in this box the iron, the zinc, the copper, introduce a little bit of calcium and sodium and potassium, you will see a life start developing. You create life. As long as you allow that, I mean, creation here, you will see new animals. The drawing you draw here is how life started on this planet. A little bit of zinc, a little bit of copper, a little bit of iron being available, calcium happened to be around the corner, salt water of the marshland, beginning of life. I said in a very recent talk, life is not exclusivity of Africa. Life didn't start in Africa alone.
Perhaps it started in the oceans.
It started in South America, in Europe. We all look the same. We all have the same structure because it's the enforcement of the condition of this planet. This is why they say we had this, and then was it the other one took place and they took over? Where did the first one came from? How did they change? Because they were created. The condition for creation of life at a given temperature fitted for life to be created on this planet. And everywhere had the same chance. Because the oceans of this planet mixed everything. There is something I've explained this in other teachings. You have to realize what's happening. You call it moisture. We call it rain. We call it sweet water. We call it the salt water, sweet rivers. But stand still for 1 second. Where did the sweet water come from? It came from the salty sea. When it evaporated, they left the salt behind and became sweet water. But as it went through the hills, it gathers some of the minerals, but not of the strength that can become part of it. Where when we see the salt and sweet water come together, we see the evolution and the revolution between it, the mayhem they create in that part of the interaction of the oceans. So, if you understand this, it's very easy to understand. How come all the vapors of the planet come together, become cloud? They come from, when you look at a cloud, it's not just from Africa. It could be every drop from anywhere on this planet. They were at a certain given the strength, they come together. The condition was created up here. So now they carried the essence of the way you made the orange and you taste the water in, for life to be created once evolved anywhere on this planet. I'll give you a news. Maybe you understand in the very near future, when the man goes to space, the condition of the planet Earth, if you find another planet which is God, the water, but hasn't gone through the evolution, will create life like this planet. Life like this is not so exclusive of this planet. Remember the orange, and you tasted the water, it was orange in Earth? Planet Earth with the human race on it, or life on it, is that orange. And the universe is the cup. You have to understand what it is. This brings us to a point, sorry about that, this brings us to a point of universal community. If enough of you who wished for peace and created a condition that we see the peace process of growth, and it's coming, if enough of mankind wishes for unification with universal community and can deliver that wish with sincerity, we deliver. Be it tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. What I wanted to point that many of us, when we producing GANs of CH3, we used to harvest separately the white GANs and later the orange GANs. But now I realize if we keep them together, it creates a quite different conditions. May this be a clue for producing, for instance, GANs of deuterium by leaving CH3 and CO2 produced together and reaching or setting up some balance of it?
You know, go back in the book where we put a picture that it shows gases don't dilute, they stay separate. The process you are explaining is the process of time of the universe. The process we've gone with the space technology is the system speeding up the process. So what you're trying to achieve by chemically and the rotation, we've seen it can be done very rapidly by those who have done it. Will take time, where in a space technology, through the rotation and conditions we create, we bring that position much faster to what we call evolution of conformation of existence. What it takes for you to eat the fruit, going to your body, to be digested, and then coming up, and then when it's needed to become your skin, let's say 20 days, let's say a week. We do the same process in dynamic reactors in few seconds.
Can
but
we
in
just
fact, we are doing the same.
Can we just produce? Sorry, Mr. Keshe, can you just produce the fields of H2O and not need to drink water and still to have enough water in our body?
How do you think I'm going to feed you in the space? Can you bucket?
Thank you. But regarding the picture from your book with the picture of the gases, so many people asking about how to produce that bluish color CH4 gas. Once we got a hint from Armin long time ago. He said to make a reactor like for the CO2, like for copper oxide, just to add sugar. Would you give us more?
The blue gas. We are well educated now. Let me explain to you. The blue gas is created primarily because we use plastic coated copper. The plastic coated copper, the plastic PVC or whatever they put on it, brings the oxygen in the vicinity, availability of the copper oxide. It's one of the most rarest kind of material to create if you know how to do it. But then there is a process you have to do. And you get it. You don't need to go and add. You see, I'm a master of disguise. I know everything, how to do it. I don't just don't go and do it. I just set it up to be done because I understand the process. Maybe because I'm a nuclear physicist. Maybe I'm the condition of the transmutation of the elements. It's the environment you create and the problem. And the problem with most of your work or knowledge seekers' work is you are locked up to one matter. This morning in the lab, I created a massive system which can produce anything, but it's been set in a condition that starts the process from neutron. And then I can create anything at any position as I decide. For me to create materials in the condition I want to achieve, it's literally, let's repeat the whole story. So you produce that whatever but at the same time, you bring to proximity is there. It cannot escape. The guy is jacketed, you know, it's like you sweat. What does it take the first sweat? The t-shirt you're wearing. It's on you. You're conditioned to that sweater or to a t-shirt. How much more do you want to sweat? You put more jumpers and coats on it. How much less you want to sweat? You put a t-shirt on it. I create conditions. Universe is created out of creating conditions. You're putting a CH3 and then a CO2. You're enforcing conditions. And then you're hoping that the carbon will lock to the carbon. So there's a question to ask. Where does the carbon go? How would you see the carbon as? You haven't explained that, and you want us to accept it. But I can explain to you where the carbon is gone. Do you know where is the carbon? Because not all of your CH3 is converted. Because not all of your CO2 locks together. And in so many ways, you have a free oxygen and we have a free plasmatic field of the hydrogen. Where does that go?
So we are
your
more
carbon-free carbons. No, let's listen very, very carefully what I'm talking about. You look at your CH3 in that organization, put a torchlight to it. A light from a, what you call it, a lighter, and see what you see. You see shining stars. Your carbons become diamond structure. So now, when you put the CH3 and CO2 together, you have created floating diamonds. But these are carbons in the shape of a gas state of the graphene state of carbon. What do you do with it? I know what I can do with it. 99.999% of you will never have a clue what to do with it. I don't want a diamond. I set out to create it because I have a purpose for it. Then you put your CuO with O2 and say, okay, O2 goes together. This is a very nice grandmother bedtime story. But does it happen?
at least a part of
How
it.
do you create CuO? Yeah, but how do you then create Zn to it? Theoretically, you're okay. But how long does it take for you to add, to put the CH by the time you put the Zn in? Where is your common denominator? You are totally denying of its work. You have a common denominator that is brought all this together. As I explained many times before, and I was telling to one of knowledge seekers, you take a nanomaterial out of the moisture, it stops growing. Your nano coating only grows as long as it's in the moisture area, moist area. Finished. So now it comes to the point. You put all this together. A very nice story. But what happened to this one? What did you do with this? And what happened? You took a water from the tap. If you manage to wash this clearly, you should end up with about 10%, 20% of your ganses. The rest will be dissipated in the washing system. In this part, you have 100% this. You put there CO2 and CH3. Theoretically perfect. Theoretically perfect. But where is your H3? Where is your O2? Then you add your zinc and copper, the same thing. What sequence do you mix them? What can you use them? What energy do they release? What gravitational magnetic field do they produce to create and absorb?
Excuse me, Mr. Keshe, can we get an adjustment on your microphone? I think it's rubbing on something. There's a lot of noise coming through.
Oh, it's the wind. It's a lot of wind here.
Okay, that's probably it.
I'm sitting in a very windy place.
Okay, I mean, there's nothing.
I have to ask Her Majesty to do something here. It's too much wind on my microphone.
Yeah, you need one of those
winded out.
One of those fuzzy covers or something to keep.
No, Her Majesty, just move the things. It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is it better now? The noise is gone?
Yes.
It seems better, yes, thank you.
Do you hear it better? Okay. Yeah, it's Her Majesty moving things. I have a team in the background trying to cool me down. And giving me things and the things to come. So we have to understand the process. The way you explain, yes, you can do the condition of the CH3, CO2 and the carbon and different layers of what you see as the CO2. Many of you created zinc oxide or you're trying to do CO2. You see part of a white thing at the bottom and a part of the white thing at the top. And it says, how come there's a water in between? My CO2 is in two halves. We explained this before. The top is zinc. The bottom is CO2. But the two trying to create their own balance and a positioning, they create motion. So you get the rotation of the fields. If you can put another gas in which can stay in a different layer, you find out in trying to find their position in respect to each other, your whole system floats. This is how the creation of dynamism in the universe for magnetic field is created. And if you twist it enough at a certain speed and create a mass, you lead to creation of a star. Even a planetary system initiated this way. There is no motor in the universe. Positioning of different elements create dynamism. Very much like oceans. What do we get in oceans? In salt level, what called salinity, leads to the motion. Not so much anything else. Alkalineness of the waters on this planet are the main causes of the motion. Temperature is something which is added on later on. It's a salinity it carries, it creates the border. Different salinity creates different rivers. It's exactly the same as your brain. Look at cut the brain and look at the different layers of it. This is the brain of the planet. You call it the water. Different layers create different salinity. Different salinities create different flows. Different flows create different condition of transfer of energy. Without it, we don't have the waters on the oceans at the temperature and the space gap which there exists. We have to redefine the science. So you're doing the same. When you put these things together, CH3 and CO2, you should put your zinc and copper in, create a dynamism in it, but will it give you the H? H is in what you got on the screen is the reality, but in reality it's a lot of wishful thinking. But if you push it, understand it, create a condition, you achieve it. We've shown that you can create structure of the brain of the man in the lab. I think the brain is dead now. what they do with it in Italy. So we can create everything, we can produce everything, we can develop everything. All of you are trying to create neutron. What do you want to do with it now? I gave you a tip, you're all at it. Go back into another part of the teaching where you all went crazy with it and you did it, you couldn't understand what happened and you just abandoned it like a flood. Here, you talk about the carbon and the carbon connected, you get the H3 and CO2. What does it give you? Crystal carbon. Now go back to the teachings when I said the life and the organization of the life will be through crystals. Now you have created the crystals. So go back to that teaching and see what we said you can do with crystals. Now you made it. Go and see what you were supposed to do with it now that you have made it. You see, all the teachings are connected, but you don't understand it, so you forget about it. Because I was in a lab and I saw so many crystals in the box. I said, my God, how much people spend trying to follow step by step, but they don't understand the totality. The teaching of today, what you put on the board, on the screen, CH3 and CO2, and then you say these two link, but where do they go? You tell us half of the story, because you haven't understood what it is, what's the consequence of the rest of the story. 99% of these carbons here, if you get it right, if you just put a carbon in it, will lead you to creation of crystals, diamond crystals. And then the question to ask, what you're going to do with it. You just said we have this because you're so targeted on producing hydrogen and CH3, you missed the main thing you worked for months before you bought all those crystals. It's a very complicated way to do it, but I have to go and maybe I can find it. Oh, I don't know. Let me see what I can get you, then you see the crystals. Just typing, asking somebody to get you the video of it. Let me see if they're online, they'll respond. You will see exactly what I'm talking about when you speak about CH3 and CO2. But you can create a condition in a different way. Okay, the answer is okay. And please send it, if you're listening, please send it to Stanley. And Stanley, if you can play it, they're gonna find it. Can you, if you're listening, can you confirm to me that you can send it to Stanley, please?
I am here, but...
Pardon? Hello?
I just said I'm here.
The video... Okay, Stanley, you're going to receive a video in the next few minutes. It's a few second video which shows you what happens in this condition of CH3, CO2 and diamond structure which is created. But the next question is, what are you going to do with it? You look at it theoretically, now I show it to you practically. And this takes you back to the teachings. Go back 2 years ago, people start buying huge amount of crystals because I said crystal is the only way of doing it. Oh, it's just they're trying to find it. It's in the communications about 2-3 weeks ago. So the process is very simple. We have to understand what are we doing, why are we producing these things. You're trying to do hydrogen, you're trying to do tritium and deuterium. What next? What are you going to do with it? And then they're going to produce a neutron. Do you know how to capture the neutron? I showed you what it is, but do you know how to capture it?
That's the main point of the technology.
Now I would like a tuition fee, private. Anybody who wants to know? Would you like to put a price on it?
Mr. Keshe? While
Yes.
the video is getting searched, I do have a question, which is, let's say I'm trying to make the bridge between those that understand the sciences.
Would you like to introduce yourselves? You guys come in and speak.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ella. And I'm part of the Keshe Foundation.
The head of the Keshe Foundation?
Yes.
No, you are the head of the Keshe Foundation. You are
Yes.
too shy. Yes. Now you can ask your question.
Thank you. So I have engineering background, so I understand when we talk about elements and about, let's say, what we were taught so far with the chemistry and physics. But I'm trying to also think for the people that maybe were not interested in these sciences. And all in all, when we talk about elements in material state, all the elements are made out of protons, electrons, neutrons. Even the protons and electrons derive from neutrons and so on. But all in all, they generate fields. And these fields are like the fingerprints. So let's say we have a CO2 gas, but the CO2 gas leaves a certain field strength or emanates a certain field strength, which is like the fingerprint of the CO2 gas. And all in all, we need to actually probably start learning how to identify the strength of these fields in order to know what we have in, let's say, our capturing box for gases. Because probably we don't always have just singular gas, we always have composite mixture of gases. And they have together a certain field strength which is needed for us to use it in various applications. So let's say if we want to travel to the moon and we would like to make a system that attracts us to reach there, we need to know to read the moon field strength. And with that reading, we will know how to match our system in that field strength. So here comes my question. How do we develop this ability? Because in physicality, we know when we touch a material, we know if it's plastic, if it's metal, if it's textile. We have this ability because we were taught since birth how to use our physical senses. But how do we use our senses, or how do we develop our senses to identify these field strengths that in the end, when we do a certain configuration, we will not take a measuring cup to measure certain elements that we put in, but we will feel it by the field strength, that it's there where it has to reach. So how do we do it?
The recognition of the field is part of our nature, but we have decided to ignore it. In the process, we have decided not to consider it, but in fact, we know it, we can feel it. If we need machines, we can create the machine for it to measure, but in essence, we know this by heart. We know this because it's part of us. Measuring tools is the easiest way to understand the strength field is to develop it. Is a sense to create it and understand it and feel it. I was holding some material yesterday in my hand, and I put it down because I could feel the energy in it. And I was holding another material, what they said is the same, and I could not feel it. I have built up over years by experience, by maybe knowledge, I can tell what materials are made of. If a material is what or whatever. Years ago, when I used to be in diamond business, I could hold the stone, rough cut stone, rough stone, and say where it comes from, which river, which mine, where, in which country. It wasn't just by the look, you could feel the energy of it. I used to hold it and I could say, this is from such a river from this part of the world, or this is a sea diamond, or this is mined. And where is mined? These are the things that once we start trusting in ourselves, you can do it. It's very easy. Some of you done this, but you never took it to the point, because equipment, there's no measuring equipment in a space. You see a guy who's only CH3, or is it a guy only CO2? And what is going to do with you, which you got amino acid, will you become blood to him? So, take a bottle of CH3 in your hand. Take many CH series and see what energy does it give you. How do you feel about it? Then pick up a CO2 bottle. Then pick up a CO bottle. And start knowing, it's like a vocabulary, it's just a language. We have to learn the language of the energies of the space through our own experience. You cannot say how it feels to be drunk till you're drunk and you become drunk. I can explain everything you want about drunkenness, you won't experience it. I can tell you everything about falling in love, but you never experience it. Oh, there's another thing, these people are crazy, talk about love doesn't exist. Till it hits you in the head, and then you know it's a feeling. It's the same as drunkenness. You need to develop senses. You cannot teach it. And that's the best thing. You can't see something in this. Excuse me, can you wait here till I go and get my machine to see what you're made of? Start experimenting, start understanding. It's like we're going back to when man came out of the lagoons or whatever. 20 of them came out, and 2 of them put a red fruit in their mouth and they died. The others didn't touch and stayed in memory. You touch, you die. The others did the same. So now, what do you want to do? I cannot teach you how to recognize CH3. I can teach you how to feel it, how to hold it, which part of your body interacts with, and then let's see. It's pick up a CH3, pick up a CO2, pick up a GANs of 2 different CH3s. What you think is a CH3, and play with it. See what it does. See what feeling does it give you. Does it make you happy? Does it make you sad? Does it give you energy of a thirst? Many of the gases, when you touch, you feel very, very hungry. Extremely hungry. And I can tell you which one. There's some you pick up and, my God, what they call it is is the remedy of the existence. You fall in love with anything, even a table and a chair. Needs understanding of time. Needs understanding of totality. Stanley, can you check your Zoom? You received 2 videos.
I'm checking.
Please do not mention the name.
Okay, yeah, I see them, yeah.
Okay. Can you play either one? It's okay, and then you play the second one.
Okay.
This is the answer to what it was just discussed about the carbon, and you just put the carbon lock together with the carbon lock together. You want to see how it locks, what it comes, have a look. Can you play it?
I'm just downloading them and then I prepare the player. 1 minute probably.
Okay, no problem. So you when you put these things down, when you explain to it, or you put an explanation to it, never put C connects with you. What happens to it? What happened to what you just dismissed? Einstein did a lot of these things. Whatever he couldn't explain, just said and it's gone. People don't understand, so I pass it up. I put it as something never understood. Assumptions, we call it. What's the assumption of 2 carbons connecting? I tell you it's a diamond and I show you it's a diamond. It's a diamond gaseous structure. The same thing as your body does, excuse my French, when you pass wind. Has no smell, it means it hasn't gone through the conversion to become from a carbon into a diamond structure, which is an odor. And what does that odor carry? What is trying to tell through the information? That odor carries the information to your brain. Don't feed my body this again. Keep away from it. Non-verbal gaseous communication between the one end to another. Can you play this? Try to look at the shine on this thing and then you know where your carbon is gone to. Can you play it? It's not loading.
We see little sparklings.
Those are carbon, those are diamonds. Those are the carbons which you dismissed. Would you like to replay it again?
They are played in the loop. First you see this rotation in the glass, and then the second video is from the top.
From the top. If you look, you see shining lights. These are what you dismiss as a carbon. So now it plays a game in that bottle. What is it? What is supposed to do? What does this floating crystal do in the universe? I'll tell you what it does, and it's very interesting. Go back in 1980s, 90s, into the press, and or you can do it on the internet, look for it. It says the largest diamond ever has been found in the universe. They found a planet which is made of diamond. If you type on the internet, you'll find it. And they don't know how to bring it back. They haven't found any Saudi sheikh to be able to pay for it to bring it back. And we know President Trump said they're going to go back in 2013, back into space. The way they are going, it will be about a couple of million years before they even get there. So, how does it get there? But go back on another point of structure to a point that somewhere on this planet, in the Atlantic Ocean and a couple of other oceans at the moment, all the plastic bottles are gathering. There is a continent of plastic bottles. But ask yourself, why only plastic bottles? Then go back on the salinity of the water. The bottles which you made your ganses out of, the original magic thing about the Coca-Cola bottle of the Keshe Foundation, and understanding the composition of the waters of this planet, the strength of the fields, the composition of the amino acid, and then you say only iron is magnetic. And then you have to understand the connection between the carbon in the binding of the CH of the plastic. And then you can find out why they are collecting in one place. It's a magnet. These environments produce a crystal structure magnetic field of the carbon which matches the plastic. Now, if you understand, you can go on it and say, I discovered now how these islands of the plastic are created. But don't say that Keshe told us. And then you become a genius, you might get the, what do you call it, a Nobel Prize for it. But the reason plastics are gathering together is through the dynamic characteristics of the carbon structure of the plastic in conjunction with its own and the salt sea. This is what I said to Sandor just now. What about the NCL? So the Earth continuously produces diamond structures, but it is used for another purpose in another dimension.
I suppose to remove completely the salt from the GANs, to wash it until I reach with TDS meter near zero.
But you still have it, you cannot clean it, there is no zero solids.
May I say something? May I say something interesting? I bought a TDS meter, and during washing the GANs, I measure after each wash. And after the third or fourth wash, when the TDS would reach to around 100, 200, then suddenly at the next wash, the salinity increases, it hikes up to about 700, 900. So it means a part of the salt has been held within the structure of the GANs or within the fields of the GANs, and it's released when the dilution reached to a critical level. And this is repeating to any kind of GANs, CH3, copper oxide, CO2, or whatever I am washing. So it's not a linear reduction of the salinity. It goes a bit linear, then it jumps high, then it goes again down. And we don't know how much more salt is still retained. We see only the salinity of the washing.
It's very interesting what you discuss. There is a place here on this planet, a huge land, where exactly what you say appears. First 30 centimeter, the land is over salted. And 1 meter below the surface of the same land, sweet water flows in rivers. And I said to the officials in the meeting regarding this, how come that all the rain which comes does not wash the salinity, the salt into the water below? This is exactly now you explain. The gravitational magnetic field of the Earth creates that condition. And it has to do with whatever floats within the structure of this planet. We cannot change it. They want to wash it to get the salt out. The salt will be produced again because the layers create exactly the condition which you explained. Do you want to explain it for a second time? Sandor?
If I may share the screen again.
Yeah.
Let's how to clean this one. So when I'm washing the water, I have a big 5 liters bottle for the water which I'm collecting. I have a 1 or 2 liters bottle where I have the GANs. Sorry, I make it so graphic to let people to understand what it is. So let's say this is the level of water with GANs originally. This is mark A. Then I add water which is exactly twice as much. So I fill till B, till level B. I add fresh water. And then I shake it well, I let it settle again, so the gas gets settled again here. And I remove this upper part B, after it's settled into this big collector. Meanwhile, I'm taking a little probe in a small cup and I measure it with a TDS meter. So I put here the TDS meter and it shows the salinity of the water which I picked from above. And first thing, it's shocking that I had a original salinity. It was about 3,000 or 5,000 ppms, but it measures only 700. So this confirms Ghana experiments of cleaning the water. So the GANs hold some part of it. So now when I do each washing, I'm counting each times how many times I washed it. It's first, second, third, and so on, and it goes up to 16. Never need more. And at the beginning, let's say it's around 700. So this is the TDS meters indication. It's 700 ppm. Next one, let's say, goes to 400. Next one goes to 300. Next one goes to 200 or something around, or 182, does not matter. Then at the next, it jumps high. It jumps back to 700 or to 800. And from there on, the next washing is just reducing almost to half. Something like this. And at the 16th wash, I reach a TDS, which is maybe 4 or something like that, below 10. And here it happens a jump. So if I would make a graphic representation, and I would mark here the salinity, which is measured, and here the number of washings. In that case, the salinity goes down, 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 and when it reaches some level, it suddenly jumps up again. And then again it gets reduced. So it comes something like this. And I always get this peak here. It happens after the third or fourth wash, usually in these conditions. Of course, for washing, I'm using as pure water as I can. I found now deionized water, which is measurable ppm 0. which is really good quality for this. So I suppose that up to this
the factor where, let me explain to you that you understand. The factor why you get that 800 peak, it means at a given point of condition, the elements, doesn't matter what it is, release the holding of the energies which equal to the salt.
So
it
it's
doesn't
not
mean that.
So it's not a salt.
No, it's the energy. Then, because you bring it into the matter state, because you're working in a GANS environment.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So now at that level, this is the level which you reach, does not matter what material, that the salinity stays. This is what I said about the land. The land has created a condition, environmental condition, that holds to this condition of 800 high level salinity. Doesn't matter how much it rains. Because what you did with the wash is old fashioned. You're out of date by maybe 2 years of education. If I was you, I created, where am I? Can I have this back? I created a dynamic system here and here. I don't need to wash. Dynamics.
Mr. Keshe, we lost your sound.
I'm still here. I have to keep quiet.
Can
you hear me?
We didn't hear what you said there.
You didn't hear?
The drawing showed up, but no audio.
Ah, okay. What I said, you wash the water. But you don't need to wash the water. You can create a composition dynamic system which does the job of the washing. And it brings the salinity to below levels. But because you're using a dynamic system, you never hit the 800. You can position it, you can condition it, that allows you to do this. Where are you going to find water in the space to do all this washing? To change salinity, to change condition of the physics. You have to understand what salinity means. What is the presence of the salt? What gravitational magnetic field this salt carries? So if that's a salinity, you need two systems: dynamic system, magnetic field transfer, which has NaCl on it. And then you see what you're going to get here. You remember what Dr. Rodriguez did?
Like Dr. Rodrigo. Yeah, sorry.
The ratio, if you remember what Dr. Rodriguez does.
3 to 1.
They put the body in between, different ratio, transfer, you can change the salinity.
This simplifies a lot.
Of course, you have to translate knowledge.
Now, my first point for removing the salt was to get a quantity of gas which I can measure by weight, because if it's in a saline solution, I cannot estimate how many percentage of that weight is water, how much is salt, and how much is gas.
You will come to my world. We have to understand that there are no scales in the universe. It's the conditions which you want to count counts. As I said many times in teachings, God didn't put a scale outside in the space of scale. We put 500,000 tons of gold and 500,000 tons of plutonium, 200 grams of whatever we call it, rare earth material, a few million tons of iron, and we make the planet Earth. He created the creative condition led to creation of this planet. So if you can repeat the same condition in the universe, you can create water. This is what the new technology is about. This is what we say we become independent of the planet. We create the condition, not the materials to be created by the conditions. It's a big difference. We create the conditions that will lead to any environment which you want to create.
The funny thing was, my purpose for purifying the gases was for allowing me to create certain conditions according to my desire.
Now your desire becomes dynamic, hasn't it?
Very much. So we have to accept a certain randomity, certain randomness.
Of course, it is total randomness, but now we can put some figures to this randomness. We can quantify it.
So I'd like to create conditions in such a way to create a little plasma interaction to create light, but I don't want to be ionizing light, to not be a harmful light, but to be a healthy light.
The thing is, you're such a new knowledge seeker. I have to tell you to go back from the first teachings.
I often go back to the first ones, and I always discover new things. And now I realized that yes, and I confirm to others that yes, Mr. Keshe gave out all the technology and it's there hidden in plain sight.
This is the beauty of it. I put it so much in plain in front of you that you don't see it, and nobody has seen it.
Those who will start doing will discover them one by one.
Yeah,
just thinking about it's not enough.
You are one of the very, what do you call it, old knowledge seekers. You're the grandfather of the technology.
Only from 2000, from 2014, and I'm following your writing since 2012. 2011, I found your patent.
So you're a grandfather in this business. But what it is, it's the reality that creating conditions to achieve what you need. If you understand the process I explained, transmutation of elements become very easy for you. Are you giving it or are you taking from it? If you're giving it, they would like to call it fusion, but there's no fusion. It's creating condition that it allows it to be what it needs to be. And the whole process we have to understand. That's why I told you, and I said this many times, everybody looks that the man from the marsh will come and teach, but believe you me, men from the marsh have learned a lot from man. Many things has been made so much simplified by even the man who thinks is backwards. Like the 4 wheels and the creation of what you call it, motors. It makes life so easy. We still do it in a space in an easier way, but motors, especially brushless ones, you can do some quick thinking. We can produce anything, but it's good, like, you know, you have children to go to, what do you call it, playground, nursery. Some of the technologies developed by man is very good for that point for children to start. But on the other hand, if you understand it, it can give a huge advantage to space development. And in so many ways, I use both. The knowledge of space and man, it creates beautiful conditions. There's a message I have to tell you before I forget. For those Chinese listeners of the Keshe Foundation, the Chinese Keshe Foundation has come back again to be translated full time by Charles. as of today, you most probably have heard him in the background. The what you call those of you who are silent English writers who understand it, the full text of the teaching is translated to Chinese live, back again by Charles. He was away for some time. He's back on the what I call behind his microphone and translating publicly. So, if you are those of Chinese language, you want to understand it, there is a QQ set up for it as usual, and those who are in the background will do the what you call it, recording for the rest of the Chinese public. We ask Charles later on to literally translate and help with transcribing to correct Chinese all the teachings of the past, which mainly has been translated by him. Thank you very much, Charles. Any other question? We are nearly 3 hours into this work.
Good afternoon, Mr. Keshe. This is Gatur. You were earlier on, you were explaining how to capture neutron. Could you please go back to that, please?
But can I ask you, what do you want to do with it?
I want to go to planet Zeus and come back.
How are you going to use it if you don't know how to apply it? I even capture it for you.
Well, you say it's the mother, so I want the real deal. Because with a neutron, I can create anything.
What are you going to do with it?
Go to planet Zeus and come back. Create whatever I need.
Doesn't accept human beings. Sorry. As an ambassador, I can tell you we have enough. We don't want headaches.
I won't bring any headache. I'll just bring some knowledge.
You got to understand what is the process, what is neutron. You call it a name, but what is neutron? Can you explain?
Neutron?
Yeah.
Well, in all elements we have neutron, protons, and electrons. When the neutron decays, it turns into protons and electrons. So that's the mother.
So what do you want to do with when it decays? What are you going to do with it when it decays?
Create whatever.
Now you had one. Now you have 2 children to feed. You had one mother. It was okay. Now you got 2 children. What are you going to do with it? And then if you leave them, they decay again.
Well, that's why I'm asking, so that you tell us how to capture it and what to do with it.
What to do with it? Do you want me to come and chew it for you too?
No.
You have to understand, Dr. Gatwa, I'm just trying to be trying to bring understanding to it. You go through the process. What you need a neutron? What does that existence of neutron gives you? What is a nuclear division? This is one of the first things I kicked nuclear industry out of my life, because a lot of things are spoken but never understood. And this is the simplicity of it. What is a neutron? What is the purpose of nuclear decay common man speaks about? A nuclear decay, any decay, I usually use a thicker line. Any decay. What is a decay? Decay means a division. In fact, if you look at it, even look at the pictures of the book number 3, Creation of Universe, which actually is a nuclear decay. What does it happen? You have a neutron which splits itself, but in a balance. But what we see in this process is a little bit of firework. I'm not interested in this. I'm not interested in this. I'm only interested in my work, in this little firework, which in the nuclear industry, we look for energy, we get it back to boil water, but as a true cosmologist, nuclear physicist, for me, this is the free magnetic gravitational fields that I can use it. To use this part of it for creation of gravity towards the nation, and this part of it for magnetic. This is the difference between a nuclear physicist like me and a common nuclear physicist. As a plasma physicist, I'm interested in this to become dimension of space. As a nuclear physicist and the war equipment, they're interested in this to create heat and destruction. This is different between the application of the peaceful application of neutron. Because I understand this is not just a heat, is not just something, it becomes a heat when it slows down. At a free point, it's my savior, because if I can accumulate enough of these two, the magnetical and the gravitational part of it, then what happens to me? Part is this, magnetical, part is this, gravitational, and given the strength for me is food. Taste chips, taste fish, apes aluminium is my water, and everything else which my life depends on in the universe. What do you want to do with neutron? To me, this is what it has to be. Americans, Russians spend billions to get this, that they can destroy each other more. Neutron bombs. But for you to make this from a GANs, it's very difficult. You have to have the science with it. But now, a neutron bomb is in the hand of every man if he knows what to do with it. But do we need it? What are we going to do? Kill each other? What for? But I'm interested in this part of it that creates peace. With it, I can create. And when I put billions of it together, then I have everything I want. Because I decide the next cycle what is going to be accumulated and be divided. And as we say, interatomic fusion. But in fact, interatomic plasmatic fusion is what leads to the creation of the universe, and how became the creator of the creator. Field in the universe existed. Its interaction led to the creation of the creator. Not the creation of creator leading to creation of the field. But where those dead fields come from? Book number 8. Origin of magnetic field. Sperm and egg, billions of them float in every rind through the world, be from the dog, a cat, a man, a woman, and everything else. Which one leads to the creation of being? It's very much the story of, did the chicken come first or the egg? Was the creator created out of the field? Or The interaction of the fields led to the creation of the creator. Now you have the field. What would you like to create out of it? You want to create neutron for what? To do what with it? I know what I want to do with it. This has become the story of the crystal till you saw it today. What does crystal was? You all went bought crystals, and I told you crystals will be the future of the space technology. But you still don't know what you're going to do with it. Now you've seen the crystals. A lot of you will walk around your lab looking at the water and say, have I got the crystals in it? Have I become a diamond dealer? In the teachings, I'll explain where the crystals coming from and what they will do. Partially I explained to you, maybe you understand one day in the future. I just said, in the body of the man, condition of the conversion of the crystals or gases, which is the Gans condition of the gases, leads to condition of odor, which is the smell, which is carrier of information. But how does the soul of the man or the brain of the man recognize what the smell means? So, when you create these crystals, why do you create it? And what line of communication do you want to turn the message into? I've given you a lot of secret. If you can unravel it, just only last 1 minute. We are nearly 3.5 hours into it. Shall we call it a day?
We did have one thing coming in from Armin from Mexico, I believe, some pictures and so on. Maybe you would like to share.
Yes, he asked if he can do it today, yes. But is he there himself to explain? Mr. Armangolan, are you there?
Trying to...
Can you unmute him?
I don't see him in the list right now, actually.
Where did he disappear to?
Thought he was there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Pardon?
Thank you very much for that explanation.
That was Gatwa.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, Dr. Gatwa. Thank you to all your hard work in Africa. We would not let the African continent down because of one person who was damaged so badly himself. We still support him. We hope we will not get a prison sentence. But it's the misconduct, nothing to do with the work of the foundation. But in reality, he was so assured by his masters that he can do and get away with it and does as much damage as he can. We hope the courts of Ghana will be kind to him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, for your continued support.
Thank you very much indeed. This message goes to you and to Alex and the rest of African continent. We will not let Africa down just because of misconduct of one person.
We are grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The stealing, taking car and changing documents to your name, which belongs to the foundation, is a criminal offense. And then showing the hand of your masters is worst thing. They thought they can get away with it. Is Armin there? Do you see him? Do you see anybody?
I'm not seeing Armin in our list here right now, so Perhaps
okay, if you put the pictures up, this is the Keshe Foundation Mexico. Is the property owned by the Keshe Foundation. As you can see, I think it's Armand sitting there. They are organizing, it's a factory which is getting developed. Is what you call the building is getting done. They just coming to the finishing part of it. It's part of the development of the KF Mexico. There is Armand. This is taking nearly 2 months, 3 months to get to this position. The foundation owns the totality of the property and the land rights, and the manufacturing team in the background have started the whole process of setting up the factory for South America, the same as we invested in what you call Africa and other places like in Italy. Is going to be a research lab and a teaching center and manufacturing and everything else that these manufacturing centers become to. It was in a very bad condition when it was purchased, and is owned by the foundation. They've done a lot of work. Originally this building was actually in a very bad state, but a lot of work has been done. This is the lab they're setting up. The same as we showed the developments in Africa and other places, this is in the same position, going in that direction. They'll be fully operational in the next couple of months, and the factory takes about 6 months to be fully kitted, and the products of the Keshe Foundation will be rolled out into Mexico, and most probably, due to its closeness, will be exported to the United States. It's a large property with a lot of building space that to be done, and the construction which is getting done. You're looking through the window into the, what you call the entrance parking. This should have been done by Armand, not by me. But he must have fallen asleep. These young boys can't last long when it comes to the night time. Any other pictures? It's the same structure as Arizona start setting up, and all the Mexican Keshe Foundation supporters, you're welcome to come to the center. We already have asked a couple of people who are around the foundation to join. One of the motions has been in communication to move to start the work here. Hopefully we'll see what Armand decides and they go with it. It is the property is around about 7,000, just around about 7,000 square meter of the what you call factory in land.
I think that's pretty much it for the videos and pictures from Armand. There's, I think, one other picture that's
explain it.
Kind of a funny one.
He's a young boy, he can't last late nights. So we let him rest.
There's a final picture Armand sent of looks like a furried friend jumping over the little wall there. But
yeah, that's the entrance into it. It's a Keshe Foundation Mexico building. They're still working on it. The construction starts after manufacturing very soon. There are a lot of pictures of it. It's very well done. Armand is spending a lot of time bringing this to a level. It was very bad condition when we received it. You've seen some of the pictures in the past. Thank you very much.
Well, perhaps Armand can give us more of a tour and explanation next time around. No, very encouraging. Beautiful lab space there and so on. Very nice to see.
Yeah, we are spreading around, and we'll go back after the court case in Ghana completed for condition of Benjamin. It has nothing to do with us. It's between the police and the person. And it has worked very much to our advantage, because Literally, they thought they can walk away with damaging, but legally the gun was trapped, and he had to open his hand that he works for the Belgian authorities. And he has meddled with a lot of things, trying to meddle things in, and the African nations are becoming wise to it. And we will see. It was very interesting to see how in depth he works for the Belgians. They infiltrate us right at the top, they thought, but he carries no capacity. He was just a volunteer working. We supported it. He has no authorities and signature in anything to be able to damage. The management team of the Keshe Foundation has taken over the position, and they will see to it. But my wish is, from what we stand from the authorities, there's €196,000 of money unaccountable for. Accountability is one factor. Changing documents of the property of the foundation to personal name is a criminal offense. So it's nothing to do with us. It's a criminality which is taking place, and they thought they can get away with it because they have their masters behind it. Thank you very much for today, and we'll stay as we are.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good, Mr. Keshe. Thank you very much once again, and for keeping the course over the last 229 Knowledge Seekers workshops. And this is the 230th Knowledge Seekers workshops for Thursday, June 28th, 2018. And thanks to everybody for attending and participating today. And I think Flint will have a video for us to go out with.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
Plasma products found at keshefoundation.org/store. Soothing, reusable plasma eye and migraine mask. Eliminate eye fatigue and relieve stress in eye area. European certified medical device. Massaging plasma insoles. Bring comfort back to your feet and energize your legs. European CE certified medical device. Antiseptic plasma liquid hand soap. Promotes well-being and relaxation with protective plasma formula. CE certified. One Soul Plasma T-shirt. GAN's formula within the symbols and stripes brings mind, soul, and body into balance. European certified. Pain Relief Pen. Emits a concentrated plasma field at point of pain, efficient up to 3 centimeters below the skin. CE certified. The Magrav's Energizer and Alkalizer raises pH and energizes water through magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Pain Relief Pad. A result of years of research in nanoplasma technology with magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Visit the online store at keshefoundation.org/store or find a distributor near you. Tax and shipping not included.